Hello, welcome to this webinar on plagiarism. This particular webinar, we will look at some samples of what is considered as word-on-word plagiarism. If you are having trouble with the audio, please make sure you use your headset. Thank you. Before we look at the examples, let's clear out the definitions of plagiarism. What is plagiarism? Plagiarism is an act of presenting another person's work or another person's ideas as your own, meaning you copy and paste, or even if you paraphrased and you did not cite, then you are telling the reader these are your own work, your own ideas, and that is considered plagiarism, cheating. Yeah, you're stealing someone's idea. So if you're copying 100%, please make sure to consider the 100% copy as direct quote, put in the quotation marks, cite with page number. Plagiarism is considered academic dishonesty. Most of the time, if you're caught plagiarizing, you will not pass that paper. You will not be graded. Please make sure you know the consequences of plagiarism from our university. Okay? It is not a crime per se, as in you do not get a fine, or you do not you will not be asked to go and sit in the jail for 2 days because you plagiarized 2 sentences, but there are consequences. So it is your responsibility to find out the consequences, and it's your responsibility to prevent this from happening. So let's take a look at the word-on-word plagiarism. You will see a lot of text. If you need to have more time to read the text so that you can compare, then I would advise you to pause the video so that you can read the text and compare. Otherwise, this video will go through. I will not pause in the video. We will go on from one sample to another sample. So I have 5 samples for this word-on-word plagiarism. So sample 1. So this is the original source. And this is the section, perhaps, excuse me, that you've read and you say, oh, I want to use this part. It's really good. If I try to paraphrase, I might lose some information, so I want to take this 100% copy, and it's called word on word. So if a student plagiarized, then the student's work will look like this, and that's it. And this is plagiarized version. One of the reasons it's plagiarized version, because first of all, it's word on word, 100% copy. And no credit was given, meaning you did not cite, okay? And you did not provide a reference. So a correct version would look like this. You have some of your own words, and then you add the parts that you want to use 100% copy, by giving citations. This is APA citation style and ASA as well. And then you add the quotation marks, okay? And then the 100% copy within the quotation marks. Please be very careful with the punctuations as well. And if you do this, it is the correct version and you have not plagiarized. So I have both the plagiarized and the correct version here for you to see. Okay? So if you want to 100% copy a piece of work, you're most welcome to, but please make sure you put quotation marks because they are considered quotes, and cite with reference. Let's look at sample 2. This is sample 2, the original source with the citation, with the reference here. And you've read it and you say, oh, I like this little bit here, I want to use it, I want to copy 100%. But if you don't do it correctly, if you don't cite correctly, then your work might be like this. Now, this particular student in sample 2 has also provided a reference. Okay, the reference is there. But then I cannot see where you have used this reference, which part. So the reader have no idea, you know, which portion is part of someone else's idea, even though you said, oh, I've used Heine's work. So this is still considered plagiarism because you are indirectly telling your reader this sentence, yeah, half of it is mine as well. And in truth, it's not. So the correct version would look like this. Yeah. And whichever part that you've eliminated, you can see here, the original is, you know, very different, but you've taken half of the sentence. So you can use an interruption here to indicate that you have not, this is not a full sentence. You've taken parts of it. Yeah. And then you put a direct quote because this is 100% copy. And then after that, because this is a direct quote, you need to include the page number. Please watch out for the punctuation here. Full stop should always end after the citation. If you're unclear about how to use interruptions, then please make sure you read more about interruptions in the academic writing manual. And then naturally, the student has provided the reference. In sample 3, before that, here's the comparison. This is considered plagiarized work. So what happened if you might say, well, professors might not know this. Yeah, but the professor will notice that, oh, there is Heine, Moliden, and Russell, and Smaldino. But where is it in the student's paper? I cannot find it. So somewhere in this paper, plagiarism has occurred. Yeah, so that's why the correct version is important. You can see parts of the sentence that you've picked up should be in direct quotes. If you have eliminated part of the original words, use an interruption and cite with year and page number and then a reference list. In sample 3, here's the source. And you say, oh, there are 2 little parts I want to use, not, you know, I don't want these words, but I like them. And usually you use them because you can see a system has parts that fit together to make a whole. How those parts are connected are related to each other. So it does have a particular content. And you might use this to do some kind of support or evidence, yeah? And if you have plagiarized, then this work would look like this. These are called patchwork plagiarism. So you take parts of the phrases, and if you've watched the webinar talking about cases, then you see this is definitely a patchwork plagiarism. You take phrases from one, you know, part of the sentence, and then you rephrase it and add some of your own words, and you say, well, then I'm going to cite it because I'm a good student, I remember to cite. But nevertheless, it is considered plagiarism because 100% copy should be considered as quotes. So this is a plagiarized version, even though you have put a citation and you have a list in your reference list. A correct version should look like this. Frick states that, and then there's an interruption with the ellipsis. Now there's 2 styles of doing interruptions with ellipsis. You can do it without brackets, or you can do it with brackets. So the earlier sample, there's one with the round brackets. So let's compare the plagiarized version and the correct version. And you can see. And this citation style is the APA and ASA referencing style. In sample 4, Here's the original, a whole paragraph. And sometimes you read it and say, oh, you know, I like this little bit here and I like this little bit there. They are quite good. I want to use it. Okay. So a plagiarized version looks like this. You try and add some of your own words plus the section you want to use, and then you add a little bit more of your own words plus the whole section of what you want to use. And then you say, well, you know, I've sort of restructured it myself, so it's my work now. So I don't need to cite, and because there's no citation, I don't need to source. This is a plagiarized version. The correct version looks like this, because the second part, you can combine this part with this part. And if it's more than 40 words, then you have to make sure it is in the correct quotation format, because then you have an indentation and so on and so forth. If you're not sure about these block quotes, please make sure to check it out in the academic writing manual. And this is the correct version of doing it. So you can see right away, to explain real world events, la 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 la, investigation. And here, there is a square bracket. And these are also another form of interruptions, meaning the student has added some of his or her own words to the one that they've copied. So in such a case, with the reference included, I have no space to include the reference here, then it is a correct version. Here's a comparison, and you can compare to see what is the correct version, how different it is. Yeah, huge different. Here's the last sample, sample number 5. And you've read this paragraph and you say, oh, I like this little bit here, 2 parts, I want to use it. So if you've plagiarized, then your work would look like this. Again, you can put how many references in there, but because you didn't reference it in your text, your reader would not know that you've actually taken it from Plagiarized work. So then you are telling the reader, this is my work. And if your professor or lecturers find out, this is considered plagiarism. Here's the correct version. Yeah, so you can see, you can add the author's name, la 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 la, then you do a quotation, because you've eliminated some bits, then you have an ellipsis, and there should be another ellipsis here. I forgot to put it there. And that's how you do the correct version of word-on-word copy. So these are the 5 samples. It's always good to be aware of how your other writers write and use other people's material. So when you're reading your book, your textbook, your journal articles, yeah, please make sure that you observe how the writers write. Do not only read your reading materials just to read for content and knowledge-wise. You also need to indirectly learn from the people who write in your particular field, how they cite, how they use direct quotes, how they use author's name in their sentences, yeah, to give evidence and give proof. And that's the best way to learn. I only have 5 samples here, So you can see then. So how do you avoid plagiarism? There are 3 simple steps without even using plagiarism checkers. Whenever you are copying 100%, please make sure that you consider it as a quote, and therefore you add the quotation marks and then you cite with page number. And when you summarize a piece of work, whether a chapter, a paragraph, a whole book, or an article, or some articles, you need to also cite with page numbers. Last but not least, paraphrase work. Yes, even though you use your own words mostly, you need to cite and give credit to the original author or authors. If you do all these three ways, then the chances of you being accused of plagiarism is very, very low. Thank you for watching this plagiarism webinar on word plagiarism. There's another one that's called plagiarism, paraphrasing plagiarism. So if you have time, please watch the other webinars. I believe there are 4 webinars on the plagiarism series. Have a nice day. Bye bye.